Hello, Professor Bordway here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this issue that comes up every once in a while in architecture. And basically, it has to do with the products and the documents that are generated by architects. And so we take a look at some of the issues that have occurred in the past. And I don't think I've ever seen a perfect set of documents. There seems to be sometimes, conflicts within the documents or the products we generate. So we do have to communicate and coordinate with those issues immediately, so it does not affect the project in a negative way. So when the architect basically generates documents, and we find that there is variance therewith, as AIA has used some of the terminology in the past, conflicts or disagreements within the documents, then basically that's something that has to be addressed immediately. There was a question that I had made up and designed some years back for the California Supplemental Exam seminars that we did. And the question went something like this. During the construction phase of the project, the contractor finds a discrepancy between the drawings and the specifications. Which document should the contractor follow and why? And it kind of gets you thinking a little bit. And I'll ask candidates in the seminar or workshops that question, and they'll say, well, the specifications, because the written word always supersedes the drawing, the graphic portion of the documents. And someone will say, well, the drawings are a little more clarified, so the contractor should follow the drawings. And of course, the answer to the question, I usually ask, I come back at that time and I ask, well, who's the author of the documents, the architectural documents? And they'll say, well, the architect is. And then I ask them, well, isn't it important that the architect be notified regarding this conflict, as opposed to assuming one over the other? And by the way, I threw that word out of my vocabulary years ago, assuming. Aside from other definitions, it means that I'm too lazy to verify. And so it's a matter of, the answer to the question, of course, is the contractor needs to pick up the phone, contact the author of the documents, the architect, and get the documents in agreement with each other. Now, general conditions of the contract for construction A201, according to AIA, indicates that the documents must be complementary. In other words, they must agree with each other. All right. So no one document supersedes the other. I see this note on architectural documents as well from time to time, that when there is a conflict, please follow the specifications or the drawings, or the more restrictive, the more costly. In other words, don't notify the architect. It's like, wait a minute, it's a matter of notifying the architect, and we do that, of course, in what they call RFI, requests for information, and that's another AIA contract. The contractor can fill that form out and then submit that. In portions of AIA contracts in the past, it indicated that when there is variance therewith, the contractor must notify the owner architect immediately in writing, RFI, and request direction and get the documents, in agreement with each other. And I think it went on to say that if the contractor assumed one over the other and it was incorrect, then the contractor shall absorb all attributable costs of said item. It's like, so the bottom line to all this is that the contractor's job is basically to follow the documents. When the documents are in conflict with each other, then it is the responsibility of the contractor to notify the architect and the owner for direction, okay, and get those documents updated and revised, agreement with each other, complementary, and then send that out to the field or right away, so as to not to hold up construction. All right. If it is an additional cost, then of course we have to facilitate a meeting and establish what that is. Create a point of reference. All right. What did the contractor bid on the job? A starting point, and then we go from there. All right. So we go back to what's called the A701 instruction of bidders, and of course we ask for an itemized breakdown of all items bid, labor and materials, and to a point where when it's all itemized, then it's a matter of going right to that particular item on that list, and boom, you're done. I mean, within a couple of minutes, yes, you confirm the fact that he or she is doing extra, or they're not. Haggling and stuff, I mean, that usually is a result of lack of complete documents. All right. And so when anybody is on the phone and talking with the contractor says, well, I guess you're right, the specifications overrides the drawings or something like that, You know, it's like anytime direction is given over the phone, I mean, that's dangerous. So it's a matter of submitting all this information in written form and track it with proper documents. Yes, the architect's responsibility is to make sure that all the documents are in conformance, compliance to all laws, codes, regulations, standards, ordinances, and the like, and to make sure that they are complementary to each other as well. And if they're not, then we need to, the architect needs to be notified immediately regarding that issue, all right, so we can move forward. Now, you know, the question I came up with could be an example of maybe R13 was shown as insulation in the walls and the drawings, but it was R22 in the specifications, and a good chance that, you know, the contractor is going to say, well, I bid the R13, so I'm doing extra, and then of course my question back to them is that, okay, let's submit documents to confirm the fact that you bid the R13, and we'll go from there. I mean, the owner's not going to get anything for free, but it's a matter of creating a point of reference. So it goes back to the itemization of the bidding that was done on behalf of the contractor. Now, if they come back and say, well, you know how we bid, we lump sum all, you know, the installation together in one big fee, and then there's a good chance the contractor is going to absorb that additional cost because they can't prove that they're doing extra. All right. So it's this type of thing as well. So any documents, it could be drawings, it could be models, renderings. If something is incorrect, you know, it's not shown right, then any tools that are generated by the architect, or perhaps even the architect and the consultants. There's a conflict between the architectural documents and the consultant documents. All right. And so, again, it's the responsibility of the architect to get that complementary in agreement with each other, and then back out to the site with updated, correct, complementary documents. Okay. But you know, at the kickoff meeting of construction, at the trailer, for example, this is one of the things I talked with the contractor about, is that if there is any conflict in the documents, please notify us, I request, verbally first, the immediacy issue, so I can get onto it right away. And then you can follow up with an RFI, you know. RFIs came about because there was no documentation confirming the fact as to when the contractor really asked the question, so blaming the contractor for delaying the project, you know. So anyway, so RFIs came about, which is fine. It confirms a fact in document form when the contractor asked the question for clarification. So, I mean, of course, every RFI comes into an architect, or not every, but most architects will say, well, that's a clarification, and then, you know, we'll attach an ASI to it, Architectural Supplemental Instruction Form to it. Or, you know, contractors thinking, well, it's a revision, and architects are thinking, well, it's a clarification, and here we go with creating the point of reference, confirmation, how do they bid, do they itemize all the data, you know, that type of thing. So it's always nice when you can try to get out ahead of all of this stuff before it happens, to where when it does happen, we know the rules to follow. And it seems to be a much smoother project when that kind of condition happens as well. So conflict in the documents, all right, so we have to take a look at that and make sure that we're notified right away as architects, and then we'll notify the owner as well, and get the documents in agreement with each other, confirm it with the agency, and get it out to the job site so the contractor can continue on. You know, one question I have to the contractor is, can they work around it right now until I get the updated documents corrected and, you know, out to them and such, and kind of work, you know, that way, so they can kind of work around the situation. All right. So anyway, conflict in the documents is always an issue that kind of comes up, and I just wanted to clarify that. And again, if you want to look at the section on General Conditions A201, I think it's the first couple of sheets in. It talks about the documents being in complementary to each other. All right? But any other questions, give me a call, and we'll talk to you a little later. Take care. Bye-bye.